Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatika. Welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. It's Channel 9 and two very special people for you today. We're going to introduce you to somebody perhaps who you've heard a lot about, but you've yet to meet in person. So here we go. On your left is Captain Carter Mook from the Millcreek Police Department, and sitting next to that gentleman is Michael Tesor, Chief Michael Tesor, the new chief of the Millcreek Police Department. Chief, welcome and continued success to you.
Thank you very much, Phil. Pleasure to be here.
Gentlemen, I have a million questions in front of me. You've got a million answers, I know. Let me ask both of you, first of all, one of you in uniform, one of you not. How did you get to be with the police department? You know, what had happened? Were you always wanted to be a police officer, concerned with public safety? Come back in 4 days when you're done and we'll continue our discussion because that'll go on for a long time. Michael, let's start with you. How did you get to be where you are?
I had an interest in it after I graduated from college. I took a test with the Millcreek Township Police Department. It was about 3 years later that I got a phone call asking me if I was still interested in the position. At the time I was living in New York City, and I came back to Erie. I interviewed, expressed my interest and desire to have the job. It was offered to me and I took it.
Okay. And how long have you been associated with Millcreek?
Coming on 27 years.
So you started when you were about 7 or 8.
I was 27 years old then.
Okay. You have a degree. Your college degree's in what?
Mathematics.
Wow. That's a little unusual because today I hear a lot, I taught college and a lot of kids want to go right into criminal justice.
Right.
I would think that your mathematics degree served you well.
It has. I use it every day. The reason I got into math way back when was it was a subject that I was good at, and when I was in college I really did not know what I wanted to do for a career at that time. Yeah. So I pursued subject matter that interested me and something that I was good at doing.
Great. Carter, let's shift to you. You got the uniform on, typical uniform of patrol, is that correct to say that?
Yeah. Yes.
And how did you get interested in wanting to be a police officer?
When I was a kid, my dad had a friend that was a state trooper, and we didn't live very far from the interstate. And he would stop in to visit from time to time when he was working. And I was always in awe of the police car and the uniform. And my father encouraged me to pursue that as employment because you don't have to deal with the worry of a layoff or of your employer going out of business.
And how long have you been with Millcreek?
It'll be 20 years in May.
No, I'm really serious. You started when you were 7. I mean, you can't have possibly been there, really.
I was 23 when I got started.
Okay. Now you're with, is it correct, the patrol division? Is that correct?
Yes.
Which means what?
I'm in charge of the uniformed officers that are out there on the street, answering calls for service.
And Michael, before you became the chief, your specialty was?
I was captain of the Investigative Services Division, which is our detective division.
Okay, and a lot of people want to know, I think, again, I taught college, is can they come right out of school and become a detective? And I said, as far as I know, the answer to that is no. You have to kind of work your way up a little bit. Am I wrong about that?
In our police department, you're correct. Everyone that we hire starts as a patrolman in the patrol division. And through their performance there and their interest level and so forth, the processes for advancement that we go through when vacancies arise, then we take the appropriate number into the detective division.
Is it appropriate to say that today you're looking for people with a college degree?
We require 60 college credits in order to apply for the job, as well as the Act 120 certification, which is obtained separately.
Which means what? What's an Act 120?
It's right now, I believe it's up to 5 months long of specialized training.
Okay.
You're basically taught at an educational level, a textbook level, how to be a policeman.
Okay. Okay. Some of the questions I have here are just wonderful. For example, you can hop in either time. How many officers are there currently? And of those, how many are patrol? How many are detective? That's a toss-up question.
Okay, I can answer that. Currently, we have 15 officers in the detective division, 2 in staff services, 43 in the patrol division, and myself. And I believe if we add those 4 numbers up, we're at 61.
Yeah. What are the differences then in the job? In other words, what do they do?
Patrol officers are our first responders. For any call that we receive from the public, our patrol officers answer those. Some of those are emergency situations. Others are after the fact situations, such as someone arrived home tomorrow morning from out of town and found out that their house was burglarized. Anyway, the patrol officers answer those calls. They handle the emergency situations right then and there. Situations such as the prior burglary, they would complete an initial report and do a preliminary investigation. That would in turn be forwarded to our detective division for follow-up and more in-depth investigation to hopefully solve that situation.
When I hear the two of you talking, you know, then you see all of the shows on television that portray what it is that you do. It all looks sort of really glamorous, you know. I mean, you got nice cars and snappy lines and good, I mean, kind of dispel that myth. There's a lot of paperwork involved here, more so than you can possibly imagine. Carter's shaking his head for sure on that one.
A lot of paperwork. In real life, you spend half your shift dealing with paperwork, typing up incident reports or crash reports, working on those sort of non-glamorous things that you don't ever get to see on TV.
Yeah.
It's not like you see on TV, you run from call to call to call, and that's all you do.
Yeah. I noticed too that are there any specialty positions beyond what the two of you are describing, besides patrol and detectives? Is there anything that even subsets from that at all?
Yes, we have two of them that come to mind. Well, there's in a sense more than two, but primarily what you're looking for is we have a one-man traffic division where that officer is dedicated to, let's say, intersections or specific traffic problems. And then the other one is a three-man drug unit.
I don't notice if you were wearing a weapon today. I didn't. Are you, Carter?
Yes.
Yeah, are you?
It's right here.
I
It's always
left
here.
mine in the car.
Okay. There's a misconception again among my students that I had that everybody's going to get a chance to shoot that thing 40 times a day, and I would be willing to bet that in your lifetime, you're laughing already, so go from there.
Well, the last statistic that I heard was, and this was years ago, that the average, a police officer nationwide on average will fire his weapon twice in his entire career.
Yeah, and that's not twice, and twice bang, 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 and then a year later, it's just bang, bang?
I believe
Pretty,
so.
pretty
yes.
close to that,
Yeah.
huh? Okay.
Yeah,
Good
two
that you say
shots.
that. 2 shots, yes,
Right.
thanks, okay. You had a lot of assignments that have certainly been fascinating to both of you. Carter, what's the most fascinating? And Michael, after him, you, what's the most fascinating? Because we have stories here, we have television shows that we can rate here, you know. Don't give away any names now, no details, but fascinating assignments.
My most fascinating job assignment was heading up the accident reconstruction unit. It really required a lot of thought and was quite stimulating to me intellectually to have to piece together something and work backwards to find out what exactly caused the accident.
Yeah, yeah. Michael?
It's a little bit difficult because in our line of work, I think we're conditioned to forget what we just experienced. But one thing, and I don't know, that's not a trained thing. I just think that happens as a means of survival and to continue on and so forth. But I guess the one thing that would stick out is when I was on the SWAT team, we had a call for a barricaded gentleman that was homicidal and suicidal, and I was there with the rest of the 12-man SWAT team and was able to talk to him, and ultimately, by giving him a cigarette, he put down his knife and peaceably came out. So,
yeah. You know, I can relate to when you say you kind of forget. When I was on the news, I would see a lot of tragedy, and I kind of learned to not keep it with me any longer, you know. I mean, it was tough to look at that and absorb that, and that bothered me. So it was, I don't know, for example, in a patrol division, when you see some of these incredible grinding accidents or people are maimed for life or possibly dead, I couldn't do that, I guess is what I'm saying, Carter. I just think you would be commended.
Thank you. It's still in your head somewhere. You know, we do try to bury those sorts of things. If we try to think about them, it would drive you crazy. So we just try to think of it as a business, if you will, and try to keep your emotions out of the equation.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you both have been here a time, and so in that time period, what kind of differences have the job? We took a little tour before we started today, and everything here is all digital. It's all changed, shrunk. Everything is buttons and touch screens. Michael, you started, and now things are different.
Right.
How so?
Well, from the actual working standpoint, the calls that an officer would receive, they were fewer years ago.
Really?
The seriousness, or certainly the frequency of seriousness, was not there. The serious type crimes were once in a while, once in a blue moon type of situation. Now it's pretty much commonplace when we talk about, say, burglary, robbery, sexual assault, drug offenses, and so on. The other aspect of it would be way back when everything was handwritten reports and what we call complaints on the call we just went on and so forth. Now it's all, with technology, we rely heavily on computers there for record keeping and management and so forth.
Carter, changes since you've been on board?
I just echo his statements, and with the increased calls, but not the increase in manpower, more of a strain is put on the department, and we're attempting to do more with less. And the patrol division is being asked to do more follow-ups and investigations than they were 20 years ago.
Kind of like a dovetail there then, in the times since you've started and now to today, the public perception of what it is that you do, or the public view, how has that changed from when you said we didn't have as many and not as violent to today?
I would say that it's more difficult to service every victim the way maybe that they prefer they be serviced, just because of volume and you know, there's a lot. With technology comes different types of crime, so that's a tough balance. And what we have to rely on, and what I've been emphasizing early on in my career as chief, which is only a month old now, is organization. You know, being systematic and very well organized in an effort to get the most out of the manpower we have.
Okay. Well, Carter, you're on the streets, so people see you. Maybe you're not specifically anymore, I don't know. But how has that view changed from when you started till today, and you roll up and you step out of the car? What do you think the public thinks then and now?
I don't really see much of a difference between then and now. There was a period of time for a year or so after 9/11 where you would drive around on patrol and people would wave at you.
Has that spurred people to go into police work, you think? Without seeing you mention that, I'm glad you mentioned that, 9/11. Has that, because it's certainly male-female now, maybe not so much years ago, but has that, you think, impetus there that people want to become really heavily involved in that kind of public safety? I want to be a police officer.
I don't know. I mean,
could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Not something I really ever gave much thought to.
Okay. One of the most common or the most serious problems of police officers in Millcreek? What's the most common? And then most serious. You get the most common. You get the easy one. Carter gets the tough one.
Okay. The most common is the property crime, whether that means burglary to a home or residence and theft. Those, I'm combining those two things together because they're both property oriented. That's the most common. Kind of alongside with that goes the drug problem, because the drug addicted individual that does not keep a job and does not have earnings needs to fund that habit. And so many times the burglary or the theft is the result of a drug problem.
Carter, most serious?
Thankfully, it's not homicides like the city, unfortunately, has had to deal with. Most serious, robberies, burglaries, and again, a lot of that is fueled by drug-addicted individuals.
20 years ago, were the drugs, quote, as bad as they are now, or has it grown? I see you shaking your head.
It's grown significantly.
Both of you shaking your heads in case you didn't notice that on camera. Yeah. So, to the general public, what advice do you have then to prevent from being victimized? And you can, anywhere along the spectrum there. Today it seems that identity theft is huge. People are making a living out of stealing my credit card number. Right. Anywhere along that spectrum is good. How do you prevent those people from being victimized?
There's a lot of different aspects on how people are victimized. One, the initial thought I have is we get a lot of people that report scams to us, especially amongst the elderly. And I guess the simplest moral of the story there is if you didn't play the lottery, you didn't win it. And to just keep that in mind. You get that obscure telephone call someday that says, if you forward us $2,000 for the million you won, that $2,000 will cover our transaction fees and taxes and so forth, and we'll be able to mail you the balance. And we've emphasized that from time to time on interviews and other publicity, but it still happens. So that's one.
Carter, how about from your end?
Don't leave your house unlocked. Don't leave your car unlocked. You wouldn't believe the amount of thefts from cars where people just simply leave their vehicle unlocked overnight.
And is that driven by weather, spring, summer? Oh, geez, it's so nice, I'll just leave the car open all night. I live in a nice neighborhood. You're telling me there are people walking around just to see if I lock my car?
Yeah, just because you live in a nice neighborhood, don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
There's opportunistic criminals out roaming the streets at night, so it doesn't matter where you live necessarily.
Millcreek Town.
Please do. Hop in anytime.
Because this, I've talked about this in the past, and it's way higher in the summertime.
Okay.
The bad guy likes the nice weather as much as we do and dislikes the bad weather as much as we do. So in the summertime, when he can be out there in shirt sleeves and shorts walking the streets at 2 o'clock in the morning in total comfort, that's when that type of thing is on the rise.
Okay. Millcreek Township, 53,000 people or so. Is there any particular difference between the crimes that occur in Millcreek Township and the crimes that occur, let's say, in LA or Pittsburgh or New York or Toronto? In other words, I guess, Carter, let's start with you. Would you like to work in a larger city?
I'm happy where I'm at.
That was quick. Okay. That was quick. Michael, how about you?
I'm satisfied where I am. I'm happy where I am. I would not want to work in a larger city. To answer the question you put forth, originally, the crime is the same. It's just the volume that's different.
Okay.
That's as simple as I can put it.
Yeah. Millcreek has grown, certainly, over the years. I mean, it was not as big as it was now, certainly years ago. And people are still attracted to your profession. And you can look in that camera over there as when you talk to them, but what kind of advice do you have to people that say, look, I'd like to be a police officer? Michael, what do you do? Well, you tell them. That'll be your camera right over there pretty soon. The red light will go on and you can talk to them and say, ladies and gentlemen, here you go.
Okay.
There you go. That's your
Well,
line.
I would say that the first question someone that wants to pursue this career has to ask themselves is, am I interested in helping the public? Am I interested in being service-oriented? If the answer to that is yes, then there's a step-by-step process to go through. The first with Millcreek Police Department is 60 college credits are required. If you have the 60 college credits, you need the Act 120 schooling, which is, it's increased in time over the years, but I think right now it's about a 5-month course. If those two things are in place, you take a written test with us on a given day. If you pass that written test, then that same day you take a physical test. If you pass that physical test, if you pass both phases, in other words, then you are eligible to be hired by our police department. From there, whatever the number may be that pass both phases, typically it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, 25 people. We then conduct interviews. From the list, we interview everybody and we establish a ranking system for hire and have each individual of those 20 or 25 ranked. and
Excellent.
we go from there.
Yep, we go from there. Now, that's yours, and Carter, you're next. That'll be your camera there with that red light on, and tell them can you add anything to what the chief just said?
You should be a person that's able to communicate well. We do have to deal with people quite a bit, and so your verbal skills need to be sharp, and also you need to be a good report writer, because you have to, especially in this day and age with all the folks out there looking to sue and gain money that way, that you need to be able to articulate what you do and what you saw on paper.
Do you have to be called into court ever to testify?
On a regular basis, yes.
What kind of cases, mostly?
Every criminal arrest you make.
Okay.
And a portion of the traffic arrest that you make.
Okay. I want to phrase this next question gently, and I don't want this to be, anything more than just what was, I think people are aware of this. I assume you have a family life. And how do you balance between what you do and a family life? I mean, when you come home from work at the end of the day, it's not like when I come home from work at the end of the day. So how do you balance that? How do you keep yourself in that perspective that we all have to keep ourselves in? Michael, I notice you're nodding your head a lot there. I think you got the good answer.
I don't know if I have the good answer or the correct answer. I can just relay my end of things.
Sure.
I think early in my career, I was not able to do that. Fortunately, at that time, I wasn't married and did not have a family. But as the years go along, you learn to leave the day's activities behind you. And I think that's a big key, because you sort of have, you need to flip the switch when you get home. And not try to not be a pessimist or have this tendency, let's say, to look over your shoulder and so forth about what could be coming around the corner. It's just a transition that I don't care if you sought education in that way. I don't necessarily think that anything is going to help other than time on the job, and you eventually find a comfort zone and a balance.
Okay. Carter, I know you have a youngster, and you deal with some of the people who are not the most reputable. And again, my same question, how do you balance that life as a young father?
It does change the way you think. I certainly wouldn't leave my daughter in the care of someone that I wasn't sure about. And as far as the day-to-day part of the job goes, I again, like the chief said, try to leave that behind. Try not to drip on my wife about a bad day that I might have had. Most of the guys in our department do shift work. That's another stress on the family.
Well, that's my next question.
Especially with a young one, trying to sleep during the day.
Yeah.
And she wants to run around.
We got a couple minutes left. I'm glad you touched on that, because do you change shifts, first, second, third? Or do you always stay with the same shift, because that sleeping, changing social patterns that you have then? When I worked a second shift on TV, I came home from work, everybody was in bed. I got home from work at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. I got up in the morning, they're all gone. Our lives went like that. Carter, you're in the hot seat.
Thankfully, I don't have to do that anymore, but I did it for 19 years.
Okay.
And it does take a toll on the officer, because you can't sleep very well during the day because things in the neighborhood are going on.
The rest of the world is awake.
Yeah.
You're the one out of sync. Yeah, dogs do bark in the daytime as much as you tell them to not stop barking. Chief, how about you? How'd that handle? How'd you handle that?
Well, early in I worked about 10 years in patrol initially before I moved into the detective division. Luckily for me, the transition wasn't too difficult, but then again, for those 10 years, I was a single person. So coming home and going to sleep without interruption and so forth was not an issue for me, nor was I, say, missing any kids' basketball games or kids' plays, or the holiday event was, although I spent that with siblings and parents and so forth, it didn't affect me immediately. So for me, it wasn't a big deal.
We're almost out of time. This is on your left is Captain Carter Mook of the Patrol Division, and on your right is Chief Michael Tesor, the new chief of the Millcreek Police Department. Carter, you go first, and then Chief gets the last word. Anything we didn't cover, it's all yours, and after Carter, you, Chief. So, Carter, if you want to look in that camera, that's fine. I'm sure that camera will be on. Good part about the job, I love doing this. Consider doing this if it's all yours. It's an open-ended question.
The good part of the job is being able to solve a problem for someone in the public and making a difference in their life.
That's very important. Yeah, that's extremely important. Chief, the last word.
I'd just like to say it's been a good career for me. I've really enjoyed this work. When I got into it, I had a sort of a sudden interest in it, really. And it's turned out to suit me and my personality well, and I feel good about the people that I've helped over the years. And as a matter of fact, on a few occasions I've had people come to me that I've bumped into out and about, and they've reminded me of the time that 15 years ago I arrested them.
Wow. And
I, said, okay, I'm a little apprehensive about the conversation, but they thanked me for it.
Wow. And
described to me how it ended up turning their lives around. So it's that kind of thing that makes you feel good, and the reward you get from this kind of work, and that's really what it's about on a personal level.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that, both of you. Carter, thanks for being here. Chief, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you tuning in. It was a pleasure to talk to Carter Mook, who was the chief of the Captain Carter Mook. He's in charge of the Patrol Division, and the new chief is Michael Tesor of the Millcreek Township Police Department. I'm Phil Fatika. You're in good hands with the Millcreek Police Department. You already knew that, didn't you? Thanks for joining us. Talk to you next time.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.